This is Skywatch Media News for the third week of November 2017. In years past, there have been several notable scientists, as well as astrophysicists, who have spoken out regarding the existence of a Planet X. They include the acclaimed physicist and astronomer Carlos Muñoz-Ferrada, who more than 70 years ago referred to Hercolubus, the comet planet. Another notable scientist, Dr. Robert Harrington, who was the chief astronomer at the U.S. Naval Observatory, labeled the rogue planet as Planet 7X, or Nibiru. Both of these men during the 20th century determined that scientific analysis and observations concluded that Planet X is not only real, but is on a slingshot orbit through our solar system. Both were respected in the field of study, but Ferrada stood out among others because he had famously predicted a change in the trajectory of Halley's Comet back in the 1960s, before anyone knew how close it would actually come to the Sun. Since that time, a number of so-called high-level informants and astronomical investigators have come forward to state that Planet X exists, that NASA has known about its orbital path since the early 1980s, but are keeping silent for fear of worldwide pandemonium. What we know is what we are being told, and it is left to us to determine the accuracy of their admonitions. There have been some very recent developments in the quest to determine the truth about Planet X and about a binary star known as Nemesis. A television scientist by the name of Brian Cox, who is an English physicist who served as a professor in the School of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Manchester, has apparently warned the public about Planet X in a documentary episode that was produced for BBC television. In the program entitled Wonders of the Solar System, Professor Cox describes how comets brought water to Earth to create our oceans, and how these comets wiped out the dinosaurs with an extinction-level event. It was during this time sequence in the documentary that the cameras panned towards the heavens, thus revealing two suns in the sky. What is so strikingly peculiar about this documentary episode is why the producers would have allowed this frame to have been seen by the public, when it could have easily been edited out. That then brings us to the question of what Brian Cox actually believes regarding the Nibiru myth. You may recall that back in September, he went on Twitter and openly ridiculed the myth. And yet the thought persists that he may secretly believe it is true. So what is it with Professor Cox? Either the two suns that were allowed to be seen in his documentary are real, or he is purposely misleading the public for self-notoriety and for self-gratification. The Internet is inundated with theories from various news organizations claiming that Planet X is heading towards us and will collide with the Earth in a global apocalypse. This is the work of journalistic sensationalism, and it is only meant to muddy the waters of Planet X truth. Whether NASA is at the heart of a global conspiracy to hide what is coming our way and the effects that it will have on civilization is something that each of us must ponder in our own minds. We must ask ourselves two very important questions. Why is the government building underground bunkers and facilities that are equipped for long-term survival? They have been prepping underground since the 1980s. So what are they anticipating outside of a nuclear threat that would require the construction of deep and massive underground bases that are capable of sustaining life for an extended time? We do not know the exact location of many of these facilities. We can only acknowledge from sightings and from first-hand reports that they actually exist, and that they obviously are there for a purpose that is being kept secret from the general public. The other question that is so important, that has so many of us bewildered, is why they are spraying the skies with chemical substances that create a cobweb of misty clouds above us. This operation has been ongoing for many years now, and oddly enough, the spraying is conducted in the general direction of the sun.
For many years, Nibiru theorists said that Planet X was part of a mini solar system consisting of 7 planets and moons, while NASA would adamantly denounce such a theory as pure conjecture without scientific merit. Then, in early 2016, NASA made a major announcement that a mini solar system consisting of 7 planets was discovered some light years away. This extraordinary announcement was seen as the proof that theorists have been waiting for, that something very significant existed in the universe that was literally knocking at our back door. For years, Nibiru theorists indicated that as the system drew closer, that there would be signs that the poles were beginning to shift, that large magnitude earthquakes and volcanic eruptions would take place, and that comets would rain down on the planet. NASA said that that was nonsense. But look what is happening now. The waters have both retreated and returned with a fury in a number of locations on Earth, suggesting that the Earth is experiencing an erratic wobble and is in an abnormal axial tilt. Earthquakes are increasing in their intensity across the globe this decade. Volcanic unrest is at an all-time high, which would imply that the Earth's core is heating up from within due to magnetic forces coming from elsewhere. All of these troubling events, including the increase in extreme weather, are major indicators that our planet is part of a universal change that is taking place across the solar system. This brings us back to the main topic of this presentation. There may actually be a hidden message in the Brian Cox documentary about comets, which makes the context of the BBC documentary more intriguing. Mr. Cox refers to our sun as the nearest star, while at the same time revealing 2 suns in the sky, which may infer that Mr. Cox is hinting at the possibility of a coming cataclysm on the Earth, which may be his way of warning us about its presence without publicly opening himself up to ridicule. It is another thought, but it opens itself up to a multitude of theories as to why the 2-sun phenomena was not cut from the documentary prior to publication. In the documentary presentation, which was filmed while traveling via rail, Mr. Cox is seen placing his camera outside of the train window, which is in motion. Shortly thereafter, 2 suns are seen behind the tree line. Now, as you should know, it is very difficult to fake an object behind a tree line when the image was actually captured from a setting that is void of any reflective obstacles, such as a glass window pane, or similar obstacles that could interfere with the camera lens. There are some people who believe, or who are convinced, that everything in this world, or even outside of this world, can be explained in logical terms, in a manner that makes perfect sense if you believe that everything happens in a normal sequential manner. But this is not how life operates. It behaves in ways that are very often mysterious and not always understood. What is so bewildering about the myths surrounding Planet X is that NASA continues to send out its top scientists to debunk the rogue planet theory. I'm referring to Dr. David Morrison, a senior scientist for NASA, who on behalf of the Space Administration is on a tour of denial. He recently told the Washington Post that he was sick and tired of having to explain to the world that there is no Planet X, that there never has been a Planet X, and presumably never will be. He actually invoked the failed 2012 Mayan end of days as his proof that Nibiru is just a myth.
Hi, my name is David Morrison. I'm a NASA space scientist, and I want to talk to you very briefly about Nibiru. It's not real. Nibiru doesn't exist. We can't see it. We can't detect its gravity. And we don't see a signature of its previous passages because there weren't any. So please, get over it. Nibiru isn't real. Planet X isn't real. We don't have to worry about this hoax.
With a wink and a nod, David Morrison tells the world we have nothing to worry about. Yet according to some recent Nibiru news stories, where he describes his anger with the naivety of the general public, he indicates that he was forced into making YouTube videos to debunk the theory under orders from NASA. How convenient is this? And why should those who believe that something is out there have faith that Dr. Morrison is telling the truth about Nibiru? Should we feel sorry for him because he is tired of, in his own words, explaining an illogical idea that won't go away? If there is nothing there for the world to ponder, then why are you continuously debunking it? Wouldn't it be better for you to just remain silent on this subject? After all, that is what NASA has been doing for the past 35 years. Although Dr. Morrison seems frustrated that the doomsday theory, as he refers to it, will not die, it may be for reasons that are justified by the events that are unfolding today. There is still one other important point which Nibiru theorists have been stressing for years. As the system draws closer to us, its gravitational effects, which are more powerful than that of the Earth, will begin to slow down the Earth's rotation with catastrophic consequences. As an indication of what is to come, 2017 is the fourth consecutive year where signs of slowing have been observed in the Earth's rotation. On November 20th, leading scientists announced the observed slowing of the Earth's rotation will lead to a significant increase in devastating earthquakes around the world, particularly in heavily populated tropical regions where roughly 1 billion people reside. The announcement was made at the annual meeting of the Geological Society of America. Thus far in 2017, the Earth has been rocked by just 6 major earthquakes, but in 2018 that number could easily reach 20 or more, according to scientific data. Scientists remain puzzled as to whether a change in the rotation of the Earth is directly related to an uptick in earthquakes, since seismic activity is so difficult to predict. But their hypothesis suggests that the Earth's liquid outer core may have stalled, causing a disruption in its flow, which would then lead to an altered magnetic field, which then leads to a slowdown in the Earth's rotation. Could a giant rogue planet influence the Earth's core, alter the magnetic field, and slow down the Earth's rotation? Yes, it could, if its gravitational effects and magnetic influence are strong enough to create these variations, which is exactly what the scientific community doesn't want to talk about. As I have said, and as you can see, there are events on this planet that do not always happen in a normal sequential manner. There are still many things that the scientific community does not know,
and for which they have no real answers. And so, my friends, as we journey through the remaining days of this year, keep in mind that our world is changing quickly. What once was is no longer as time passes. Therefore, it is imperative as stewards of this great earth to stay informed, to be mindful of your surroundings at every turn, and to keep looking to the sky.